Matebesi, who's joining me and will be the analyst for the rest of this entire broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's start off from that conversation that Natasha just had with Ntate Frank Chikane. Is there a lot to be optimistic about?
Well, this is the 108 January 8 statement or birthday of the African National Congress. For the masses, party members, there should be optimism. I asked one person that I've met who's from Durban, why are they traveling so far? And he said the ANC have done so much for South Africans, especially black South Africans, and that's why for them this celebration is not just a celebration, but it's also to show off or to indicate the power of the African National Congress.
Is that the legacy of the ANC? If the ANC was to go belly up tomorrow, would the legacy of the ANC be a party that uplifted black people in particular in South Africa?
Well, one should be very careful how you answer that question. From party members, maybe that could be the case. But if you look at the situation of the majority of South Africans, definitely not the case. We are still facing serious challenges 25 years after democracy, and I don't think the African National Congress can be proud of its own achievement in terms of basic service delivery. I mean, we are at a backdrop of load shedding. That is actually an insult to many South Africans that we're still experiencing that. It shows it's indicative of lack of planning.
Yeah. You say if you ask the majority of South Africans, that wouldn't be the case. But why is it when we go to the polls, the majority of South Africans who go to the polls express confidence in the ANC?
There's absolutely no credible alternative. You see political parties like the Democratic Alliance, which is the official opposition party in South Africa, and you've got the EFF. We have made some inroads, but unfortunately, if you look even the build up to this event, you will see that when the ANC unleashes its election machinery, its organizational machinery, there's absolutely no party that can contest with that. And unfortunately, for you to win elections, you need foot soldiers. And this is what the ANC, despite all the challenges, has been doing quite well.
Yeah. Is it the case that even if you look at liberation movements, for instance, if you look at Botswana, for instance, the BDP, if you look at in Mozambique, for instance, is there a sense that what is happening on the southern hemisphere, on the continent, that there is a lot of sentimental value attached to the work that has been done by liberation movements, by the first liberation movement that would come in and become the governing party?
Yes, that's a very good question, especially if you look at some people have predicted, or it's actually a known fact that liberation movements do not last more than 2 decades. The ANC has been doing quite well, and if you look at the racial issue, race-based politics in South Africa, I think that also plays a huge role in terms of the continued support for the African National Congress. And yes, to a large extent, people still feel that there's absolutely no credible alternative, and that's why they will continue to support liberation movements like the African National Congress.
And why is that the case? And I want us to speak about the Southern Hemisphere. I want us to speak about, for instance, the BDP, the Botswana Democratic Party. I want us to speak about ZANU-PF, for instance, in Zimbabwe, that although people would be complaining, although what we would be seeing on the media is people complaining about poor leadership by people deployed amongst parties that were liberation movements or that are liberation movements, yet they still express confidence when it comes to the polls.
I will try to paint a picture here. In any political party, you will get your die-hard supporters who will support the party irrespective of the challenges. And unfortunately, you also get those that are being persuaded by or pursued by what the party can offer. The African National Congress is the ruling party in South Africa. You go to each and every little municipality in the country, everything evolves around the municipality. For you to obtain a job in the municipality, you need to show support for the African National Congress. And come election day, if you openly show that you support the opposition party, there will be consequences. And that's why you will continue to see people will support the African National Congress and liberation movements who can dispense patronage.
Exactly, and that was my question right now. Considering what you mentioned earlier on about the ANC being able to unleash its electioneering machinery, is it because of the patronage network that it has? Is it because of access to resources that it has, that it's able to unleash that election machinery?
Viewers at home and anywhere, I know houses have been built. We are building up the momentum to the 2021 local government elections. Houses are standing empty, but a couple of months before the elections, those houses will be handed over to communities. Food parcels will be handed out, and I don't say the ANC win elections based on that, but these things do count. Bread and butter issues do count in South African politics, and you can come and convince or counter whatever challenges the ANC have. At the end of the day, once I have been given a house, there's absolutely no way that you will come and convince me to vote against the African National Congress.
Let's quickly speak about the party's internal wranglings. Post the 2017 NASREC conference, it was the issue of unity, that the party is going to unite. That was on top of the party's agenda, and also, of course, implementing policy resolutions that were taken at the NASREC conference. But what we see playing out is not necessarily what seems to have been the resolutions taken at the ANC's NASREC conference. There's one resolution at least that we can say that resolution has been implemented, and that is land expropriation without compensation. What about other resolutions? What about, for instance, the nationalization of the Reserve Bank?
Yes, most definitely. And even if you look at the trend that is building up within the African National Congress, you can see there is resistance against the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa. Some of us have predicted that it was going to be very difficult for the president, who I strongly believe is one of the best at the current moment, to lead the African National Congress. But unfortunately, internal political factions and fighting and strife have taken over, and that's why it's very difficult for the president to implement some of the resolutions that have been taken at NASREC.
I just quickly want to bring up a tweet here that I saw earlier on. So I tweeted earlier on the arrival of the Deputy President, Didi Mabuza, and just listen to what this person said. Tabi Hawk says, "I think we are slowly witnessing the rise of Didi Mabuza. Ramaphosa is slowly losing trust even from his own support base because of his indecisiveness."
Yeah, it's extremely sad. Somebody with all the requisite skills, but it seems as if sometimes you can even see him when he's addressing the public very upside-minded, and that is just indicative that it seems as if all the internal strife within the party has taken over. And unfortunately, unless if the president does not come up with a different strategy, it's going to be very difficult that he will get a second term from the African National Congress.
Do you find it interesting at all that yesterday, last night at the ANC's gala dinner, that the president spoke about there are no schisms between him and his deputy Didi Mabuza? Do you think that it was strategic, it was necessary?
Yes, well, most definitely, especially after the ESCOM saga, where the deputy president stated something which I think most of the African National Congress NEC did not want the public to know about, that the president has been misled. And that once again is indicative that the president is starting to acknowledge the role that Didi Mabuza is playing behind the scene, which can be a very, very dangerous move if he does not move on to that.
So then that means that Tabby Hawks, as he tweeted earlier on, may have some credence to his argument that Didi Mabuza seems to be gaining some sort of support. And what he said, he said he is slowly witnessing the rise of Didi Mabuza. And if you look at what happened last year, even just after the elections, just before the swearing-in ceremony, how Didi Mabuza took a stance and said that because of the allegations leveled against me, I'd rather appear before the Integrity Commission of the ANC before being sworn in. People saw that as a principled stance being taken by the Deputy President, or the would-be Deputy President of the country and the Deputy President of the ANC.
I would even move a little bit further than the Nasre conference. Didi Mabuza is demonstrating skills of a shrewd political tactician, and he is consolidating power, and he's got the skill to know when to back off when he sees things does not go in his favor. And I don't think many politicians can do that. That principled stance that he took, for me, was very decisive, and I think it swayed over many supporters within the African National Congress.
Yeah.
He's currently enemy number one because of what
enemy
he did.
to who? Enemy to who?
Within the African National Congress.
But enemy to who?
To the African National Congress. He played the old song of he's going to bring unity within the ANC, and yet what happened? He is the Deputy President of the African National Congress. He did not play open cards with many branches of the African National Congress, and that's why there are voices of concern against Didi Mabuza, but he's playing his mindful games to his own advantage, and don't be surprised if Didi does not rise to the power within the ranks of the ANC.
I was actually having a conversation with someone yesterday who said to me that what we should take into consideration is that Didi Mabuza was the premier of Mpumalanga. He wielded a lot of power in Mpumalanga. And then he becomes deputy president of the deputy president of the ANC. He becomes deputy president of the country as well. But he doesn't seem to have so much influence when it comes to administrative decisions being taken at an executive level. And that could be something that is bothering him. He then said to me that watch what's going to happen with Eskom.
Yeah, well, already I think the decision by the Deputy President to go out and make a public pronouncement, which should actually come from the President, was to actually highlight the indecisiveness on the part of the President. And this is the underlying currents within the highest leadership of the African, within the ranks of the ANC. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, people like Didi Mabuza plays the game in the right way, and this may actually sway a lot of support in his favor.
Professor Matebesi will continue this conversation just after this. Let's go to Natasha Piri, who is standing by on the field as we build up to the official keynote that will be addressed or delivered by the President of the ANC, President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Well, thank you very much once again, Algin. I'm joined by two prominent guests here.